We are not necessarily live, but we are back. This will probably be the first episode published since our coming back. We filmed a couple so far, but we don't know what the title is going to be yet. But today we are going to talk about our thoughts. I don't want to say our thoughts on the 2024 season thus far, which is the Open, the quarterfinals, and the semis. What we think about the workouts, where we think there might be a small shift, and most people probably would agree there's a shift in the testing body, the communication with HQ, and how things are going. So we should adapt to that, and how we might be shifting our training and our designs for our clients and our athletes, and the way we're thinking about the season and the preparation. That's going to change a little bit, and we kind of want to share our thoughts on that. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. If you subscribe, it will help us to getting back to live shows, which we love doing, so we can interact with you and build a little audience and have some good questions while we're on the episode. So that would be great. That would be very helpful. But to get back into it, again, today we're talking about the season, how you should be training, or some things you should be thinking about leading up into the 2025 season, because we're not prepping for the 2025 season in 2025. The time to prepare is now. That doesn't mean you need to be crushing training 3 days and doing everything right now, but everything you're doing now is setting you up to perform the best then. So without further ado, Sam, what your initial thoughts on the Open this year? What are they?
Initial thoughts. Inclusivity. I think that's a really good word. And for those that don't know what I mean by that, there seemed to be a big theme around getting more people to be involved in each stage of the competition. So the Open, of course, being all inclusive, but the barrier for the next stage was much greater, from top 10% to top 25%. For the Masters, top 25% going to the quarterfinals. The next stage going to the semis for the Masters, top 200 from 30, which is a huge difference. So there was definitely a shift towards inclusivity with how they approached the structuring of the competition, which, of course, influenced the testing body. Because if there's more people, then you're going to have to water things down. And that's not, I don't think that's anything new, because you just think the games will be the most ultra specific and ultra specialized because they have such a small amount of people. And then as you zoom out and you get more and more people, it has to be more general, more basic. Like, you can't give people L-sit rope climbs and weighted pistols at the Open. Like, you just can't do it. So there was much more inclusivity with how they approached everything, especially through these first 3 stages. What about for you?
Yeah, initially I didn't like the top 25%. And as it went on, I still didn't like it. So the top 25% wasn't great. I don't think even the workouts that were given are, kind of bleeding into quarterfinals, but they took top 25% from the Open. I just still didn't think it was a great move. The workouts were fine to me, given what they are, because, it was top 25%. I feel even if it was top 10%, the workouts were still fine. I didn't love them. I liked each individual workout. They were good, but kind of paired together, they weren't the best in my thoughts. But yeah, you definitely could see that they were definitely pushing towards kind of a little more old school, very simple, and definitely like, hey, this is a community event. This is fun. They were really trying to push that. They were giving like awards out and little prizes and stuff like that, which was cool and got people involved. But yeah, I liked it. I really liked workout 2. I thought it was like the most Open-esque kind of workout, the 20 minutes with the deadlifts. That just seems so open to me. If anyone would have shown me that workout, I'd have been like, wow, that just seems like, an Open workout. The other 2, not so much, but not surprising. So I'm fine with it if it kind of stays like this, but not a fan of the 25%, which kind of leads into quarterfinals, unless you want to kind of touch on each workout a little bit.
Yeah, just maybe a couple notes. for the open events. The open will always be very inclusive. And as I mentioned, if the further you zoom out and the more people you involve, work capacity, testing that will always be a staple in the design because it's easy. It's easy to give people 7 minutes of burpees. It's not easy to give people 7 minutes of squat snatches. Like that's harder. And you'll deter a lot of people because they'll be like, oh, that hurts my shoulder. I don't want to squat snatch, but burpees, anybody who does CrossFit in a box, they can do burpees. So I think that was a good reminder for the open level that the entry point for the sport is work capacity. That doesn't mean that takes priority over strength because you have to be strong enough to actually express the contractions such that there's a work capacity element to them. But that was definitely reinforced with those 3 events. It was heavy on the work capacity, the burpees, dumbbell, the triplet AMRAP you mentioned, and then the thruster and pull-up bar muscle up piece. Also, something that I think I've seen this the last few years or within the last 2 to 3 years, they definitely lean towards less squatting in the open because I think it's easier. It's more accessible. It's easier for people to bend over than to squat down because of just the way we live. Like if we were only working with, or if we were only testing people who lived in Africa or the Middle East, you could probably have way more squatting because those people are just more accustomed to sitting in a squat position. But in the Western world, everybody sits and they're tight and their squat position is poor on average. So bending over is easier. So you just see more bending, which is fine. It's just something to keep in mind. But yeah,
you think that's conscious, or do you think that's?
You think I don't think it's conscious. I don't think they're thinking about that. I think it just comes out. They're like, yeah, I think of it this way. What if instead of dumbbell snatches for the first one, you had, single arm dumbbell thruster, the same weight? I mean, that would just destroy people. It would just, and so many people would be like, I don't want to do that. That'll be so uncomfortable. Or the next one, instead of deadlifts, you had wall balls, which you could do, and I think people would be fine with it. But again, it's just deadlift super easy, dumbbell snatch is super easy. So,
yeah,
that's my theory. It doesn't mean it's right. It's just that's what I think from what I've been noticed, what I've seen the last few years.
Okay, workout 2. Speaking of deadlifts, wall ball. I mean, deadlifts, not wall ball.
You want to talk about the open events? You want to go through those a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, dumbbell snatch, burpee. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's so funny to me how people get so caught up with the time on that. Well, they get caught up on the times with the open events in general. It's like the open doesn't mean anything. I have to have a conversation with. Yeah, as of now, it could be next year. You could be going to the games again through the open, and then that's different. But I think people lose when competition comes up, stress is high, people lose their sanity and they get really anxious and psychotic. And so they get very wrapped up in, I got to go faster. How did that person beat me? It's like, well, you got to keep your eye on your prize, which might be the quarterfinals, might be the semifinals, might be the games. So it was a great introductory event. 90 snatches, 90 burpees. We could, if we wanted to look more closely at the event for a particular person, you could ask yourself, were you limited more by your muscles? Like, were you fatiguing in your triceps or your low back significantly, which is slowing down your rate? Was it just your breathing? It's like your ventilation getting way too high and you had to slow down. So you could look into those to figure out what might have prevented you from going faster outside of maybe you just didn't have a volume of reps built. Like, have you done upwards of 100 burpees in a session with speed and upwards of 100 snatches in a session? So, we can always we can take the performance, we can look at it a little bit more closely and figure out, what might have prevented a better outcome. But yeah, so that was the first event.
Yeah, I think if it's a good example of speed and
Hmm.
standard blend where people, if you're not training to a good standard, like if you're not doing dumbbell snatches correctly, you're not doing burpees or jumping over correctly often,
Yeah.
and then you have to go fast here, it's going to show. Luckily for most people, like there's basically no, you know,
Yeah.
there was no docs or no issues and no penalties. But if they start doing that or you get somewhere else, this style of workout is a good example of where you should be practicing this all year round and making sure your movements look good so that you can go full speed and
Yep.
not worry about it. Because I saw a lot of videos and a lot of people just going faster and them looking not great. And they probably had no idea, or maybe not even the intention of, you know,
Hmm.
cutting it close. But um, to me, that's just
Yep.
something I've been telling people to think about is make sure your movements look great now. So when it's time to go fast, they continue to look good.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It definitely gets, as you get better, you have to be way more conscientious of that. Like your movement has to be good because, like what happened to you last year, which
Yeah.
is a luck of
Speaking
the
of,
draw. Um, well, your movement was great. You just got a judge who was
Mm,
OCD and like, oh, you didn't open your hips on 4 reps, so we're going to give you 100% penalty, and now you don't get to go to semifinals.
yeah.
Um, but if you are in a contending spot, like you have to be way OCD on your reps, your range of motion, because it's almost like they just want to penalize people. Because if
Yeah. It
they,
makes them look like they're trying or
yeah,
doing
they
something.
are. I mean, it's like you can pull out the Brooke Wells clause where that one year her range of motion was horrible, her reps were horrible, but they said she showed she could do the work. I forget what they called it.
The work
Uh,
capacity. She had the capacity.
yeah, and then you could easily use that with anybody, like any of the people that got penalized in the quarterfinals. You could use that as a rebuttal to their
Yeah.
penalty because they're showing they can do the work. It's like they're not changing the work output that much. Like not opening your hip all the way at the top. That's not changing the amount of work you're doing by like a significant degree. I mean,
Mm-mm.
so digress because I want to get off topic.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Workout
the
two,
road.
row
Yeah.
deadlift double under 20 minutes long AMRAP. How
Hmm.
powerful can you be on the rower? And then how fast can you continue to keep the cycle speed? Um,
Hmm.
I think
Yeah, you got to know.
this workout shows kind of how a lot of the rest of the season went as well in a way. Like how fast can you keep the
Mhm.
rate and be powerful, on a
Yep.
machine.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's less high skill, less bottleneck type tests or events, then it will go back to what level of work rate can you maintain as you work through the event. That's what it. So in the absence of a big chunk of handstand walk or a big chunk of muscle ups or a big chunk of GHG sit ups or a big chunk of legless rope climb, then it's more about like how quickly can you cycle through rounds of this work. So that was a perfect example, which comes back to really needing to know your row paces. So around your 5K pace was a good goal, maybe a little bit slower. And it was interesting too watching Jason Hopper and Taylor Self do that workout because they started way
Hmm.
too fast and they both blew up.
They
Like they
started
were
like
way
138, 140,
yeah, and if
finishing
they
148, 150.
yeah, they were yeah. If they hit that from the start better, they probably could have had a world record or close to it. They drained their batteries so much that those last 5 minutes they were on empty, like they were on their reserve, which is that's why they looked like they were so uncomfortable when they finished. Like they literally almost killed themselves. Um, so that was a good test of knowing your paces, knowing what you're capable of, because the row couldn't be so intense that you were actually draining when you were rowing because when you went to go do the deadlifts and the double unders for some people, you're slowly depleting resources, finite resources. And when you go back to the rower, if your pace is too fast, you won't recuperate anything that you're depleting. And so then it'll be it'll just eventually happen where you have to slow down because you're just exhausting resources too much. So that's why the pace needed to be around your 5K a little bit slower, because that would coincide with a pace that is a lot more sustainable than if you went faster than a 5K. So yeah, it was a good test. Transitions too. Any event with a lot of transitions, that's a good fitness IQ, sport IQ characteristic. Like, you need to be cognizant of transitions, because I mean, I had a female, and she was rowing. What she row? Maybe like a 156, 155, and she got 830 reps, which was a really good score. And I had guys that were rowing faster than her, but didn't beat her because her transitions were just quicker, and her deadlifts were fast. Her double unders were super smooth. So it didn't necessarily only come down to the row. Transitions could make up quite a bit of time too. So things you have to be cognizant of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good workout. I liked it.
Yeah, you did well. You did 900 reps, right? That was a good score.
It was mid.
So of course you liked it.
I thought I underperformed. All right, next workout, we had the 5 light rounds into the, was it 5?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 5 light rounds into the 5 tougher rounds. Chest to bar pull up, chest to bar pull up, thruster chest to bar, and then thruster bar muscle up. I liked this workout, and I thought it was cool. I thought it was interesting, just how the way people were approaching it. They were, some were pushing the beginning really hard, some were just coasting, pushing the end really hard. Some people were, right in the middle on both.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a cool workout. Definitely a baiting workout, but it was a good race. Like, people were trying to throw up good scores on that one. I liked it, but that's like the highest skill we got was the bar muscle up. It's pretty good volume in terms of bar muscle up for the open. 35 reps is a lot for like the community event, you'd say, but yeah, I mean, double unders and bar muscle ups are like the highest level of skill in the open, which isn't a bad thing. Just not much separation for skills for people.
No. Yeah, 35 is a lot after the first half. So that's the key or one of the reasons why I really like this event is it's the quintessential CrossFit test in the sense that this sport really asks you, like, how good are you when you're fatigued? What's your capabilities when you're tired? And this was the example, because the first 5 rounds didn't mean anything. Like, the score wasn't determined by the first 5 rounds. The score is determined by the last 5 rounds, which means you have to be cognizant of, how do I pace the first 5 so that when I get to the next 5, I actually have energy and resources to perform and put up a good split. And it was in a perfect example of how not to do this was Ariel Lowen in the live announcement. She started way too fast. She was trying to beat Jay Crouch, or not beat, but she was like going head to head with him. And he had more capacity than her on that test. I think her split was maybe like 5 seconds faster than him on the first 5 rounds, but she imploded. Her last 2 rounds were like, she was in pain. She was hurting, and he crushed it. Like, he was good through the first 5, in control. And then the next 5, he stayed really smooth, and he put up a really great performance there. And that's because he knew himself. He held back a little bit. So he had juice for the back half, because the back half is the workout. So that was a great event in that it forced people to know themselves really well, so that they didn't get ahead of themselves in that first 5 rounds. And just having the work capacity to handle that first block of work and have it not cost that much. Because if it does cost too much, then you're screwed, because the bar muscle up costs way more energy than a chest to bar. So if those 50 really drained you, then you're done for the bar muscle up.
It would have been great to see Tia do it, but
yeah, she would have
the wrist injury.
Yeah, she would have hammered it.
Yeah,
but yeah, super good. I like that one a lot, and just a great example of the question every athlete needs to ask themselves when they look at a test, which is what needs to be prioritized in this
Mm-hmm.
test? Is it, the rowing? Is it the double unders, the deadlift? And in this circumstance, it's the second 5 rounds. It's not the first 5. So I like that a lot.
Yeah. So open, it's 3 workouts. As of right now, it doesn't matter. From per HQ and basically Dave Castro, who is our only mode of communication for the sport, it is going to matter next year. So,
That's what he said?
or he said, someone gave him a question since the open doesn't matter, blah, 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 something else. And he said, well, that's going to change soon. That was his thing.
Jeez.
And then from a lot of the media, a lot of the podcasts, they keep saying like, hey, it's clear to see, and we've heard some rumblings, like there's gonna be big changes next year. So I don't know if they're going back to a sanctional style or if the open gets you points or whatever it is, but something will. So overall, the open is simpler, it's lighter, there's less skills, it doesn't matter as much. But if it does, and the way we've seen the quarterfinals change a little bit, which we're about to get into, it might be to your advantage to prepare a little bit more, or just to be in a little more, shifting to your shape or your essence at that time, being able to perform those workouts a little bit better.
The open?
Hopefully, yeah. I was saying, hope if it matters. If it matters, you will need to prepare a little bit.
Oh, if it matters. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. Yep.
So, and if it matters, luckily, the way we've seen the quarterfinals shift a little bit, it's leaning a little more towards kind of how the open would look. So it may not be the biggest detriment to your training to prepare a little bit more. It just might have to look a little bit different in terms of timing and scheduling because, we had 2 weeks off and, it just changes a little bit. But it's just something you want to keep in your head, keep in your brain. And it might help your training knowing that the open might matter a little bit more. I might need to push a little bit more here or have a little bit more motivation. But
yeah.
So leading into the quarterfinals, I'll start with the recap. Basically, there's only 4 scored events.
Yeah.
There's a longer window to complete 4 events than there were for 5. And there was a slight more bias to capacity than in years past, where maybe if you're looking at it that way, maybe not a slight more bias, but in years past, it seemed like you could have better skills, you could be a little bit stronger, and those would help you a lot more because you could gain a lot of points.
There was way more of a bias towards work capacity.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know if bias was a good word. I meant more so like
bias.
You could gain more points last year by hitting a home run on a workout because and also there was 5 events, so there's a lot more points to be had. This year, even if you had 1 home run, you couldn't have one outside of top 100. You had to be, all of them had to be good, and likely you had to have a good workout as well. Which I don't know if it's a bad thing, but it's not a good thing because there's 25% of people are able to do it. And something like a clean and jerk workout where there's not a lot. If there's more people in, there needs to be more separation.
Yep.
And it's not 100%. The worst thing, but maybe adding one more workout, because that alone, even if it was a simple workout, it's going to be tougher for more people to complete 5 well. Or adding a little more skill to one other workout, because basically we had 1 workout that was all gymnastics, 1 workout that was all weightlifting, and then 2 mixed workouts. And the mixed workouts were, like very CrossFit-y. There was no skill involved. The power snatch is the biggest skill, and swinging the dumbbells. So I liked them, but again, a 5th test would make it awesome. I like the workouts, and I think really good people are going to get through. So, it still works out to a degree. It just makes it muddier for the people that, are in the 20 to 40 mark, which it always ends up kind of being like that. The bubble people are getting shafted a little bit, but it could have played out a little bit better. I would have still loved to see a 5th event. But yeah, workout 1, interval style. It's kind of cool. The first thing I think about is I wish they had like a 10-second break between each one or something to see a full minute of work and less gaming. But also the gaming is kind of cool, like who's going to do what. But that could have been okay, or maybe like a 45-second, 15-second transition. So I would have liked that, but that's just my opinion. The workout overall was cool. The step ups was okay. It was pretty dumb. I wish I wish it was just step over. Obviously, everyone said that, and it's true. It just would have cleaned up a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Um, it may have even made the workout a little bit harder, because people probably would have been going faster and constantly moving, and putting it down might have, I think, costed more because you can't really go much faster on them.
Hmm.
I may be wrong, but um, yeah, cool workout. What do you think about it?
Well, I'm trying to think of the quarterfinals. Uh, the workouts were drastically different this year than last year. Like not even
Yeah,
close. Like last year, the first event, the last event, heavy, non-complementary muscle endurance. The second event, more of a skill test with the dumbbell and the crossovers because that was something people weren't practicing. So that's again more of a skill test. The third event was the clean and jerk burpee box jump over, which is in the way we think about like a battery test, which is similar to the clean and jerk workout that you had to do this year. So that's one similar test. And then the fourth event wasn't even a work capacity test because if you were great at GC sit-ups and V-ups, mainly V-ups, you could beat people who are better than you at rowing.
hmm
And I could show that with 3 of my clients who were holding slower splits on the rower, but their V-ups were so fast and their GC sit-ups were so fast that they beat people who had better rowing capacity. So it wasn't even a rowing test. So
me.
there was almost, yeah. So it's super interesting. Those are very different tests. And then now this year, you have, like you said, you have the weightlifting test, the fourth event, which is like a battery test where if they had another bar and it went to 275 or something, you'd see more separation. But I did like that it was 245 because it allowed those that were strong and really fit. They're doing 30 plus reps at 245, which is really impressive to do that many reps, doing 60 reps
hmm
in 10 minutes. So I like that event. I thought that was good. Then you look at the first event, heavy on the work capacity front. How much work can you put out? You look at the wall ball burp one, heavy on the work capacity, muscle endurance. And then the gymnastic test, which I thought was a great test because now you're looking at muscle endurance in the upper body. You're looking at the durability of your muscle ups under a lot of fatigue.
Yeah.
So I like the tests, but there's no continuity between last year or even the year before. So, as a coach, you're like, okay, these are very different than what we anticipate might be what they're testing for. So, and that's what you want. You want some continuity so you have an idea of what you might need to be getting better at. But of course, the rebuttal will always be, well, it's unknown, unknowable. You just need to get better at everything. It's like, oh, well, that's not helpful in a sport when you're trying to create structure, organization, professionalism. So, so that aside, if we want to get more into the actual events, the first event, I do like that they had the 1 minute rest interval. I like that format because the minute rest interval is
hmm
really going to challenge people's recoverability. So those that have great capacity, great fitness, they will maximize that 1 minute rest. They'll actually get a lot of recovery out of that minute versus those that are not that fit. So that, even though it's a minute, it seems inconsequential. If you are very fit, you can recover a lot of energy in a minute by not doing anything.
hmm
So that was good to see. A lot of strategy on that event, knowing that the row was a big separator. So being smart with the snatches so you can maximize the row, which I had some people do that and they worked out really well. And some people missed the boat on that and they didn't do as well because they over prioritized the snatch before I could talk to them about it. Um, I do like that they've been doing more single leg movements that are not pistols. So they did the step
Yeah.
ups this year. They did lunges last year. I do like that. Just the year before, they did lunges and pistols, which was savage, um, and wall balls. 2022, they had so much squatting and knee flexion. Uh,
Yeah. And
so I do
21.
like, yeah. So I do like that there was. I like that they've kind of moved away from pistol because the pistol's a great movement, but for just longevity's sake of the knee, doing like high speed pistol for high volume, I you kind of want to be cognizant of how much that you're doing on a yearly basis. So that was great. So I like that test. Again, is that a type of test you would put in the quarterfinals? I don't know. I mean, if that's where they're leaning more towards work capacity now, then okay, yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, there's no real skill in that event. It's just work capacity. So
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think a lot of them are like that. And then kind of what you were saying earlier, like the, continuity year to year.
mm-hmm.
Also, like the progression from open final semi. This might be the one year that there's very little like progression and skill because, you know, this year the skills at semis are still ring muscle ups and handstand walks. It's not very different than, one could argue that the wall facing handstand push up is harder than the handstand walk. So it just seems odd because, in years past, it's like usually pretty clear that like there's a step up. And that's kind of what the design of the test is.
Yeah.
It narrows more. This
Yep.
year, you could look at all the semifinals workouts except for maybe the legless, because you could say maybe the legless shouldn't um,
Mm-hmm.
be in the quarterfinals, but they could all kind of fit into the quarterfinals in a way in terms of like
Yep.
what they're testing and their skill level. So interesting to me, but
Yeah,
work.
there was less of a jump from one stage to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially from
Which,
open
I
to
mean,
quarterfinal.
and they could have done it pretty easily with similar workouts, like the handstand walk row workout, just put in a pirouette. Like it's a unbroken distance, no more
Mm-hmm.
5-foot sections, make it,
Yep.
make it a 25 down and back, and it has to be
Mm-hmm.
unbroken. That could have been really cool, but yeah, we'll get there. Then two wall ball, burpee box, jump over. Thought it was a really cool workout. It got like, I thought it was kind of dumb at first. For the event, but after seeing people do it, hearing clients, hearing athletes talk about it, like it was a cool event. And um, yeah, you really
I
had to
think you
know
could have
how hard to
got.
go.
Yeah, I mean, I think 50 burpee box jump overs, 100 wall balls, and 50 could have given
Hmm.
you a really similar outcome with less time being spent doing the move. Like so many people got time capped,
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, it's a big workout, but why not maybe
and
write it in a way that if you are really fit, you can be very aggressive with a 50 100 50 layout,
yeah,
and if you're not, you can be a little bit smarter, but that gives you the opportunity to really push it on those final 50 and get it under a time cap of like maybe 15 minutes or something. So
yeah.
I
And
thought they
then
could have been
the
maybe a little
the
more
13
creative.
minutes might have been real. Like their
Yeah,
13-minute goal, it might have actually been attainable. Giving it
yeah,
doing 50, 150.
I
That's
know.
ridiculous.
Yeah, so the 3 rounds, I think that was a little overkill. That might have been a Dave Castro special. Um,
Yeah,
but it was super impressive to see people do that under 16 minutes. I mean, that's very very impressive. It's some serious
yeah.
output.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably got waxed on it, but then a lot of people probably um, gained confidence in it. Like I had a couple clients that were like,
Hmm.
I just didn't know I could keep going, and it felt good. Like I'm upset I didn't go a little faster.
Hmm.
Getting to I had a good amount get to the wall balls on the last set, and they're like, man, if I just had 40 extra seconds, or if I just had an extra minute, and then they're doing the math, like, dang, if I could have just done 4 more reps a
Hmm.
minute, I might have had that time, and so it was cool. I think it showed them that they could work harder
Hmm.
than they did. Um,
Yeah,
Workout
you do.
three, say what?
I would say, yeah, you do have to know yourself, because if you are going to work for 20 minutes, you got to be thinking like, okay, I mean, that's going to influence your pacing strategy quite a bit. So
Yeah,
when you don't have something to help anchor your pacing strategy, like a cyclical element or something that's more controllable, then because the wall ball burpee box jump, they're they're very intense, as in the fatigue can rise pretty quickly. So you have to be very smart with how you're going to control your energy so you can, of course, get through it and not hit a wall. So, yeah, you had to know yourself pretty well on that one. But yeah,
but pacing is dumb, dude. Intensity is king.
yeah, sure.
Sure is.
Sure.
Um, yeah. Speaking of intensity and zero pacing, workout 3, gymnastics.
Yeah.
Um, which, yeah, I mean, this was probably the most I had people say you need to pace from the
Of
start
course.
way more than you think.
Yeah.
Um, like I had a client really struggling with handstand push-ups. It's strict at the time. Female, like you kind of would go on and off, could get 1 or 2 in a row, feel great, could do one in EMOM of 1 for 20 minutes, and then they'd kind of lose them and
Mhm.
get struggle bus. And this one, they got all 10 and got back to the wall, did another one. So it was cool to see. But they were doing um 5 and then 5 4 3 2 1. So 5 5 4 3 2 1 to get 20 reps. And it helped them a lot. Just break, relax the grip, not stress as
Mhm.
much. And they said they were like, it was so easy because I just was mindless. I would just looked at my whiteboard and would do my
Mhm.
5 4 3 2 1, and then it would just be over, and I didn't feel that bad. But sometimes when you're just thinking of the race and you're having anxiety and you're I have to get these done.
Mhm.
I'm going to do 10 5 5 or 10 10.
Yep.
So this one was definitely about pacing and just how good you are with your skills, your positions, how fatigue. Like does your are your handstand push-ups terrible and your heart rate is jacked and you can barely breathe going into the rope climbs, and then it just kind of falls
Mhm.
apart. But cool workout, a good separator. Um,
Yep.
but this is really the only one that is like a separator of skill.
100%. Yeah, big separator. And this one's very similar to the third open workout where you have to
Yep.
know what actually matters, like what determines the outcome. And in this one, it was the muscle ups. The muscle ups determine, well, two, can you even get to the muscle ups? That would be number one. And then number two, if you can, how do you make sure that you have as much energy as possible to do the muscle ups? So if you deplete the musculature in your triceps and in your grip before you get to the muscle ups, you're going to waste 2 minutes, 3 minutes to try to get like 2 or 3 muscle ups. Like it's just, you're going to be so fatigued. So you had to
Yeah.
be really conscientious of, okay, I got to do fives on my toes to bar, even though I know I can do 30 unbroken. I'm going to break up my kipping handstand push-ups. I'm going to break up my strict handstand push-ups. I'm going to go at a nice controlled pace on the rope climbs, because the only thing that matters is the 20 ring muscle ups. And if you get there too quick, you probably won't do that well, except for like the top 5 in the world. They will just hammer through it and they're fine because they're that much better. But for
Hmm.
almost everyone else, you you have to be thinking about your pacing strategy with the muscle ups in mind. It's the same with the first event in quarterfinals last year with um, the 21 wall facing handstand push-ups to finish the workout. Like your whole
Yeah.
pacing strategy had to set you up so when you got there, you were as good as you could be to perform those. And if you got there too quick, you probably were going to blow up or fail and not get that great of a score. So,
Yeah.
so I like
Similar to this one
that
too.
test.
Like
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
just the wall facing, because it was like if you were in that 75 to 90% range, it was the wall facing, and then once you
Mm-hmm.
got to the 90% and above, it was the muscle, like the speed of the
Mm-hmm.
muscle up in the grip.
Yep.
And it's like I was asking a lot of clients, would you rather take a 5-second break 2 times on the strict handstand pushups and maybe do 5 and 5 on the wall facing, or are you gonna have to take a 30-second break 3 times on the wall
Yeah.
facing? Like they're it's hard to see it like that. Um,
Yeah. Well, and
but
part of it is people think if you get there faster, you'll have more time. And that's the total wrong way of thinking about it. Because when you get there faster, you're draining your finite resources more quickly and you can't recover them as fast. You can drain them. It's just like a bank account. It's way easier to take money out of your bank account. It's much harder to put money back into your bank account. It's the same with your muscles. If you push them too fast, too quickly, unless you have elite recoverability, like you can replenish them really fast. But if you do, then we're not having this conversation. You'll just be staring at the wall. So you have to go slower to ensure you're not draining that bank account. So when you get to the wall for your 10 handstand push-ups facing the wall, you can do them in 3 sets, and then you get to the muscle ups. It's like, okay, I can start with a set of 4. I can do a 3 and then a 2. So, but a very big boy, big girl workout, because you have to be very smart and knowledgeable around your own abilities, around how you handle bottlenecks, around identifying what matters in the workout. So I thought this was a good quarterfinal event. I think this was a good separator. And I also like too that the volume there wasn't a ton of volume. Like there was a decent amount, but there was only 20 muscle ups at the end. And I love when they make 20 feel really hard, or they make 30 feel really hard. That's a better way of writing a workout, is how can I make these final 20, 30 reps really challenging, instead of here's 60 reps. Like, that doesn't show good creativity in challenging people and writing a good test. So make less cost more. That's a good way of approaching it. So it's good.
Little teaser, by the way, the Proof 3 Financial Podcast is launching end of summer. We're going to be talking about bank accounts and finances.
Yeah.
And we're taking
turning thousandaires into millionaires.
Yeah. And we only have 50 spots available for the first run of people.
There you go.
No refunds.
Sign up today.
Yeah. Well, give us your money and we're going to teach you how to do what we do with your money later. Just trust us. We drive nice cars. All right. Event 4, clean and jerk. Definitely the most balanced test. Obviously the best test, the coolest test. Joking aside, it was a cool test. Definitely not the most balanced, but it was a great test of strength, really good test of efficiency, how well you can recover. Wait, was it? Wait, you had a minute, right? Each time you completed one section. Was it 60 seconds? Okay, yeah.
Minute
so you have forced rest. Cool workout, and maybe they'll just do the exact same workout. Like I think it would be cool if they just did the exact same thing, just picked snatch.
Well, that was the semifinal event from 2021 for Europe, because I had 2 people do it, and it was the same loads. And then they did that same workout in the Masters, I think, semifinal in 2022 with the snatches. So this was the same test, but just clean and jerk. And I think they're both great tests.
I remember the snatch one. I remember a friend of mine at the gym doing the snatch one. That's right.
Yep. It's just like this is the quintessential way CrossFit tests strength. So this is a perfect example of how you actually have to be strong in this sport, is you have to be good at something like this. And same with the semifinal event, which we'll get to, the snatch ladder. That's the same thing. It's like you have to be strong enough so you can do 245 for multiple reps at the end there, or 165 for ladies, I think. So like you need enough strength so you can lift that for reps. Then you need great efficiency, so the cost of those reps is not that significant, and you need great capacity to allow you to recharge, recover after each of those reps. You can do more and more and more, and you also have to be fit enough so you can do the 30 reps preceding, and then actually the workout starts. Like that's how they test you. Like do a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, and then the real test begins. So it's like, same with the muscle ups, same with the clean and jerk here. Same with the bar muscle ups on the open event 3. So I like that. I mean, that's the sport. So this was definitely a good test.
Yeah. It would be an awesome test if it was same weights, but overhead squats. That's my last little chime on how to change it.
Yeah, you could do
like
that.
a squatting event instead of just singles on the reps. But so recap. I kind of already said the recap, but only 4 scored events, longer window, biased capacity, good workouts, could benefit from using one more, but overall, and a lot of people might be feeling this, like you felt I wasn't as prepared, or maybe you felt like the workouts went pretty good, but I just didn't have the extra little oomph that I needed, or I didn't feel like I could go faster. This is where we have been talking and thinking the the season could change for a lot of people, or the preparation could change for a lot of people, and being just a little bit more prepared. And it doesn't mean that you're not better than you were last year. Maybe you're crushing all your assessments or tests that you've laid out, and maybe your snatch improved, your Fran improved, and your handstand
Mm-hmm.
push-ups improved, and your max set of muscle ups improved. But you got to quarterfinals and you got the exact same. You're 200th again, or you
Yeah.
were 5% worse, or only 5% better. Um, this is
Yeah.
just 4 events, so you're just tested on 4 things. So it may not be the best way to see that you got better,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that we can't try and prepare better for everyone in the
Mm-hmm.
future.
Yeah. The best way to know if you got better is you have to do the events from last year. You got to compare your scores from last year to now. That's how you know whether or not you improved. You can't use the leaderboard because the events are different, so you don't have a reference point. So the only way you truly know if you got better, as in you improved your fitness, based off of the testing body they decided, you got to do the events that happened last year. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
you do a few of them leading up to quarterfinals, which I give clients a few of them here and there. But at the end of the day, that's how you know if you got better on those tests. But yeah, we could spend 30 minutes talking about that. So let's get into
But we won't.
semis. But we won't. Yeah.
Yeah, semis again. I thought each workout's pretty cool to me. I saw them. I was like, man, these are cool workouts. Like, I like this one. I like this one. I like this one. Not a huge skill separator, or not as heavy, and not something I think where like a lot of people are. Uh, I mean, we saw a lot of people hit cool home runs and do some cool stuff, but overall, I think it could use a little bit of some tweaks. But again, like we said, there's just not as much skill as previous years. There's no 1 rep max, which isn't a bad thing. It's just a note. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's been a lot of 1 rep maxes and semis to some degree, whether that was a ladder or a few attempts or whatever it is, which are still great tests, but they've kind of shown they're
Mm-hmm.
moving away from that and said that they don't really want to do that anymore, or at least at this level.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see something at the games. But cool events. Event 1, we got run and clean and jerk.
Yeah.
I
Well,
really
real
think
quick
this.
before you dive into it, a very simple layout. Like there wasn't anything crazy within these events. There wasn't like last year you had the 2 minutes on, 1 minute off with weight vest and muscle ups and pistols and burpee box jump overs, like run, snatch. Like there was a lot more flashiness with the tests last year. This is very
Mhm.
like bare bones, like run and lift the bar, do some gymnastics and lift the bar, ride the bike, jump and climb the rope. It was just very row and handstand walk. It was very simple, which isn't a bad thing. It's just it
No.
is different. But there is, I would say, it the thread is more connected from the open to the quarterfinals to the semis with this. If the semi events were similar to last year, then I would say like, okay, this was way off course. Like this is not indicative of what the quarterfinals looked like because last year, the quarterfinals to the semis, there was a bit more continuity. I got this bug. I just got it. So yes, they were a lot simpler, but it made sense in the context of the open and the quarterfinals.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like kind of how you said, it's very simple, almost, like anyone could do it in a way, which is
Oh
cool.
yeah,
Like, I think the idea of event 1, 2.5
that's
mile
great
run
workout.
and and
Great
clean and
test.
jerks at a moderate load, like someone could go try that.
Yep.
But like there's still need, this is the semifinal, this is what's getting us to the games. Then like maybe event 2 needs to be, a little more, instead of
Mm-hmm.
handstand walk and row, maybe it's deficit handstand push up and row or something. But
Mm-hmm.
I do like that. And just speaking of event 1, I thought it was cool. I think running is important in the sport.
Super
We've definitely
important.
showed that. So I think it's cool that they should include it in event 1 in semis. So you have to get to the games because I doubt anyone is pulling like over a 20th on this and making it to the games. There could be a couple outliers.
Yeah, I think
possibly, but
Victor Hoffer was an outlier. I think he came
yeah,
like
yeah, he might,
25th or 30th.
yeah, he might have been, yeah, it was like 28th or 30th.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's going to show at the games, I guarantee, because they're going to have more than one running event, whether it's like a running
yeah,
event or there's just a lot of running in between things, or
yeah,
hustling back and forth.
yeah.
Um,
Got to
but
be a
yeah,
good
so that
runner. As you
yeah,
get higher in the sport, you got to be great at running. I mean, you just look at the times because that was a running workout. If anybody said it's a clean and jerk workout, they're off their meds,
hmm
because at the end of the day, the clean and jerk is not heavy enough or long enough to make a huge difference in the outcome. The majority of the time spent is running. And so you have
yeah,
to know yourself really well. You need to know, ideally for that workout, you needed to know your 5K time trial for a run, like a 5K run. And you need to probably go a little bit slower than that. And then you needed to know, as you got into the first two rounds, is your pace on point? Like, are you going just fast enough where you're not depleting resources, so you're not going necessarily too much faster than your critical speed, which we can talk about what that means another time. um, and if you are going too fast, you are just going to slow down a lot, and you probably saw that with people who started too quick or just have no concept of their running capabilities.
yeah,
So it was it's a really simple test, but great. It really required the athletes to know their capabilities with running, because the clean and jerk was just kind of like, it's just there because they have to do it. But at the end of the day, it
yeah,
was running.
yeah. If it was a clean and jerk workout, it really just means you're a really bad runner and somehow you're really bad at clean and jerks.
Well, if it was a
And
clean jerk workout, your PR would be like 205.
yeah. Or I mean, like they're so bad at running and they mispaced it that they just couldn't even do the clean and jerks. I don't know if anyone got to that level, but
Yeah, no.
basically, it's almost impossible for
Yeah,
it to
you'd
be
have to
a
just. It would have to be. Well, you wouldn't even have gotten to this point if your clean jerk was 205. So
yeah.
if the clean and jerk was 225, then you're looking more at, now the
It's
clean
still
jerk matters more.
yeah. The great runners are still going to do well. It's just going to be the great
Oh
runners
yeah,
who are strong.
yes, yeah.
Um,
You could be the gap would get tightened between the strong people and the enduring people. But at 185, it's not enough. It's
um,
inconsequential.
Event two, double under toes to bar front squat. Cool event. To me, it was kind of like uh, the double under. It was kind of a miss. Maybe they could have put the crossovers in there. Maybe they could have put triple unders in there. Something, because it's super basic.
Well, it's okay. I'll
Mo-
play devil's advocate. I mean, it's okay. They could have been
yeah,
more creative with the layout. Like, they could have, instead of just 5 rounds, maybe you do like a
double
descending
under
or
between.
ascending. So maybe, there's 50 front squats. So maybe you do like, um, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and then you do 10, 20, 30, 40 toes to bar,
Yeah,
and you do like, whatever you do with the double ones in between there. So you could be a little more creative with the structuring to challenge the athletes a little bit more and make it a little bit more interesting. Just doing 5 rounds, like, it's
yeah.
just for the semis, you be a little bit more creative.
Yeah, I'm just thinking most people did over 500 double unders in the open. So
Yeah, it's
it's kind of the
redundant.
same thing again. But yeah, it could have just been adjusted, and then I never would have said it. But yeah, not a bad workout. Cool. It was kind of a cool race to watch. It was a little slow at the beginning, but as people were finishing up and starting to make mistakes, or
Yeah.
it got cooler to watch. And I think it'll be really cool to watch this weekend. The East is going.
Yep.
I think a lot of people will just be hungry. It's event two, it's first event of the day,
Yeah.
so I think it'll be a cool one to watch. Next one is Echo Bike, legless rope climb, box jump over. I love the test of the legless rope climb. I like, the box jump over with a style box. The Echo Bike's
Mhm.
pretty cool because it's not just about just not the most powerful person would win. It's still going to
Yeah.
favor a bigger, powerful person, but it's not 30 cows one time. You still have to be enduring on the bike and smart. So Cool workout. I think it could be adjusted a little bit to be cooler or to actually test the rope climb more. I think maybe just doing 2 rope climbs each time back to back maybe would have pushed people a little bit more to pace it differently. Just the one at a
Yeah, that
time. I
would.
think it's just so easy just to jump up there and basically fall off.
Yeah, well, so the way it was written, it forced people to have to push the pace faster.
Hmm.
If you change it to 2 per round, then it's going to slow down the pace a lot because now you have to manage your fatigue because you can't get to the point where you're going to fail. Because a lot of guys, I watched a lot of guys, they they did a really good job and they're also stronger where they pace it just right to where like the last round or the last couple they're really close to the edge before they're going to fail, which is how you want it to be like that. And with the girls it was probably a little bit sooner or they just had to slow the cadence down a little bit more. So they laid it out, I think, nice. I think it was a good layout
Hmm.
because they wanted to prioritize speed. They didn't want to prioritize
The legless
like
rope climb.
yeah, the legless rope climb. Like it was there to cause breaks and to challenge your ability to push the pace. Which is why, as one of my notes I wrote was recoverability. Like the test was how quickly I did get that bug. I just saw it on my table. I didn't even notice it. What a good attack I had with my hands. How quickly could you recover between the legless rope climbs so that you could keep that cadence the entire time? And then with the bike, you needed to keep your power up because you couldn't take 50 seconds to do the 10 cows. Like you needed to keep it close to 30 to 40 seconds if you wanted a good time. So
Hmm.
this one definitely overly biased to bigger athlete. If you're tall and you have more weight, that helps with the bike, helps with jumping, helps with reaching and climbing. So for once, we definitely had a bigger athlete biased event, which was great. And in case in point, too, you just watched the West Coast. Um, Colton and Scott Tetlow, who are like the shortest CrossFit athletes, but extremely fit, extremely capable athletes. They both got torched on that event because they also had to
Yeah.
step down. And when you have super short legs, stepping down from 30, like that takes way more energy and work. Um, so I think the event was good. I like this one actually a lot because it was really showing how fast you could really push it. And watching James Sprague, like he just annihilated it. And he's taller than me, and his reach is
Yeah.
probably bigger than me too. So it was a perfect event for somebody like him.
Agreed. Row, handstand walk. Another one he did pretty good on for being tall.
Yeah, because it
But
was
yeah,
the row played a pretty big part, I'd say. I mean, the inside walk was important, but I
yeah,
think at that level,
everyone's kind of in there. Unless you're
yeah,
it's really like everyone's at the same and then there's 1 or 2 people that are running.
yeah,
But
yeah. Like Victor, he has really great positions. Former gymnast. I mean, handstand walking's like walking on his feet. But a pirouette in there would have been a game changer for maybe making the handstand a little bit more dicey.
mhm,
Um, but it really, I think, in my opinion, it was more about the row. Like you needed to row pretty fast. Like you're not beating people if you're rowing a 150 and you're super lightning on your handstand walk. You're just going to lose. It was almost 2,000 meters of rowing. So if they're beating you by 10 seconds every 500, and you got 4 500s in a 2K, that's 40 seconds of time. Like you're not making that up in the handstand walk. There's no chance. It's not enough distance.
no.
So
Um, Event 5, the snatch ladder. Great workout. Um, a good workout because it tests strength, but not necessarily absolute strength. The guys with the best 1RMs weren't always winning, especially after we saw Colton go. Touch and go the 265. He definitely doesn't have the heaviest snatch, but he's been working on it. His positions have improved a lot. You can tell. Um, so that was cool watching that. Yeah, it was. It's very similar um, to the quarterfinals event, but I thought this one was probably the only one that was a good, like, hey, this is a little bit of improvement because it's a race 2, not just how many can you get.
yeah,
So you have to pace that a little bit differently, and just the mistakes matter way more because there's a fixed amount of reps, and it's how fast can you do those fixed amount of reps. So
well, and it's a squat snatch, way
mhm.
more demanding, especially under fatigue with your legs that are heavy. Power clean jerk, you can get away with that all day, any day. But yeah, they're similar in that they test an athlete's submaximal capabilities, but they're very different in the fatigue that they're going to drive up, because the clean and jerk, it being an AMRAP and the load fixed at that final barbell, that's very different than you have a finite amount of reps. You have ascending load, and the ascending load's getting you closer and closer to your max. So it's going to test the athlete a little bit differently, and yes, require enough strength, but I would say also great positions and efficiency with the snatch under fatigue. Because I saw, who was I watching? I think I was watching Henrik Kapalainen, who he qualified, but his snatch under fatigue is so bad. And I know he won't watch this or listen, so I don't. And even if he did, like, he's going to the games, he's been to the games, he's an amazing athlete. So I don't. Like, what does it matter? But you just go watch. It'll speak for itself. That's not his strongest movement or position, and I think he missed a few at 265, barely made the two, and he got it done. And it just showed that his movement quality, when fresh, is decent, but it's not great. And then you add fatigue, and it's just going to deteriorate so fast. Whereas BKG, with a lot of fatigue, his movement quality is still amazing with the snatch. So you can just get away with riding that line a little bit closer to your miss point. So
Yeah.
really good test. They had this in 2020. Well, they had 2016 at the regionals, and they also had it at 2021
At the West Coast
Classic. Yep, because I was there, and I like this test. It's really good, and it's a nice like staple test for people who are interested in competing and they want to reach this level. Like, you need to be able to do this, and so it just gives you a reference. Like, okay, I need to be able to snatch 265 twice under fatigue. And if I can do that, then I'm probably strong enough to be at that level.
Yeah.
So I really like that test.
Yeah, same. And then we got the final one.
Because you snatch a lot.
Yeah, I know. I even if it was clean and jerk into a squat, just the 10-8-6-4-2, the managing the increasing load, it's a cool one. But yes, it would have been sick to have done this workout this year. So RIP. I don't know if you saw the story that Michael posted from OPT about
Matt
I think it was about
I was playing. Poor Matt. Yeah.
I said it was good. I send stuff like that to my wife all the time. Manage, or whenever she says something like, "Oh, are we going to turn on semis?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, dude. You want to watch everyone else do it?" The Echo Bike muscle up lunge, cool workout, cool little finish. I thought it was a little underwhelming, like, because to me, I'm thinking of usually the guys in the top 10 or 15, like, they're all going unbroken. Most, I guess, some of them just kind of, I guess, maybe missed their shot, pushed a little too hard, but still, still just not a lot of skill, just kind of go. It could be a cool event if there was more skill throughout, but
well, I would say
okay, man.
It was interesting because it was, again, another great example of, you have to think about what actually matters. And the thing that mattered was the lunge. Like, people lost their games ticket because of the lunge, because they either pushed it too fast or they reached failure too prematurely. And then if your grip fatigue goes, like, you have to sit there for 30, 60 seconds. Like, you're not working around that. Same with like a legless rope climb. If you fail a legless rope climb, you have to now wait at least a minute. Like, you're not replenished. It's the bank account analogy again. Like, you're not adding hundreds of dollars of bills back into your bank account right after you took out $10,000. Like, it's going to take you some time to build that back up. So you had to be, well, one, you needed really big hands. So if you had big hands, then A plus. If you don't have big hands, then you need to be really smart with your ring muscle ups. Maybe you needed to break them into 2 sets so
Yeah.
your grip had a little bit more juice. And then if you know you couldn't go unbroken, you needed to break at a point that seemed reasonable so you could then finish, because so many people like would go for it and then they'd fail, and then you got to go back like 25 feet, and it's like, oh, you just wasted so much if you knew you were that close. So it was interesting, like especially the West Coast. There was a lot more action, uh
Hmm.
especially with the men, just guys like failing. I mean, hundreds for 70 feet, right? That's serious stuff. That's not light.
Yeah, there was like maybe six guys that, maybe not really six, but four that were like, the whole final workout could change everything. Six, if you
Yeah.
win it, could. So there was
Yep.
6 or 7, so that means there's 13, 14 guys that basically are like, we have to go for broke, which was,
Yeah.
yeah, it made it really interesting.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I like that it wasn't one of those. Well, as long as you do the muscle ups unbroken, you're fine. Like that
yeah.
happened regionals 2015, where it started with 15 muscle ups and then it was a squat clean ladder ascending. And for the girls, if you could get through the 15 unbroken, like you were fine. And for the guys, even kind of the same, but then you had to go fast with the squat cleans. But the point being, the 15 here didn't even matter. You could do them in 2 sets and you could still beat a lot of people and get a really good time. The lunge is what mattered. So you had to be smart. And even, like so many people just mess that up. And it's easy sitting here and talking about it, but it's just a
Yeah.
great example of, okay, what actually matters in this event? Okay, this does. All right, now how do I make sure I do this really well? Well, I got to be smart leading into it, and then if my grip's on the edge, I got to stop. Otherwise, I'm going to waste 40 seconds. Like I'm better off taking 20 seconds right now instead of having to waste 40 seconds and trying to go for it.
Hmm.
So that was interesting. I like that as a finish event where you make them have to think a little bit and strategize. It's not just like a
Yeah,
full
it's
send.
fast.
And,
It's
yeah.
it's like it is fast full send, but you can't just do it brainlessly. Like you have
Yeah, it's
to.
not like 50 burpees for time. Like
Yeah.
you got to be smart. So
Yeah.
so it's good.
So,
It was a good
yeah.
finish.
Okay. So we went open to semis. Um,
Yeah, it's pretty
biggest
good.
biggest things were just, it was less skillful.
Yeah.
And biggest upsets, Colton Mertens and Yonakoski did not make it.
Yeah. I
Um,
couldn't believe that he didn't. That was a
oh
huge
yeah,
upset. Couldn't
yeah.
believe that.
Open winner, quarterfinals winner,
Yeah.
and then like 1 or 2 spots out, in that,
Yeah.
which is so sad. Huge fan.
Yeah.
He's great. I would have. I really thought it was going to be a great year for him at the games, but he can just come back next year and do it again.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe he just won't win the Open and won't win the quarterfinals this year, and then he'll win
Yeah.
semis and games. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
can see
so
that.
this was a quick recap. We talked quick, a little bit of a long recap, but we wanted to go over all the events, kind of talk about how they went, how we feel, and then it kind of puts it in a little bit of a different perspective, seeing all of them in a row. Because if you look at them individually, you're, oh, these could be pretty good, but then seeing them back to back, it just seems like this is the most similar year from open to, in my opinion, from open to semis. The most similar year in terms of the essence of the workouts, the style of them, the movements, the skill level. They just are pretty similar. Um, Not necessarily a
Continuity.
bad, yeah,
Continuity across all 3 stages.
yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of CrossFit. So,
Yeah.
um, you need to improve
100%.
in some CrossFit. So we're
Yeah.
going to have some more episodes talking about how we're going to do this, but overall, things we're going to talk about, maybe some rapid fire, quick things that we might change. So a few things we might keep the same moving into preparing for 2025. Initially, my thought was we need to be more prepared for CrossFit. So more preparation for, and it may not mean that people were super unprepared, and preparation can look like a lot of things. It could be like, hey, we need to do way more burpees year round and you need to get better at them. Or it could just be, you need more exposure to those style of things leading up to the event. Um, More power. In years past, in my mind, we would become very powerful in the off season, and then we would dampen the power a little bit to have a little more recoverability, which still probably as a whole is true. But maybe increasing some power tests or doing some more powerful style events leading into the quarterfinals. And this is going to change for which athlete, but as a whole, 90% of the competitors, people are trying to get really, really good at going to quarterfinals and doing well at quarterfinals. Is kind of what I'm leaning towards.
Mhm.
And then I noted possibly more exposure to lifting under fatigue or non-traditional strength tests. And really that could just be me thinking of the clients I had. And, most of the clients that I was working with in the quarterfinals were needing to drive up strength in general. So it might have not helped them anyway, because they still need to drive up strength. They still need to get stronger, because where they were, they just weren't strong enough to compete
Mhm.
at the level. So just getting stronger is better for them. But that doesn't mean maybe a little more exposure. Maybe that could still help them. So those are kind of my top three. What are you thinking immediately?
Immediately, you probably don't need to change a whole lot from what you did this year's past. Like, if there's one thing I would suggest, it's don't make huge radical changes. I'd probably make little changes. So, like when you said more CrossFit style workouts, which I would agree with, and what that means is more maybe work capacity training. So you're because like that's in essence what CrossFit is. CrossFit isn't pistol, handstand pirouette, L-sit rope climb. It's like Cindy and Barbara and Nancy and Nasty Girls. Like it's a very simple work capacity, which is great. So
Yeah.
that idea could be something that maybe people need more exposure to, so they feel more capable there. Also, they just have more exposure, so there's more confidence. That I think that, and that's I've already. I mean, it's end of May, and that's something I've been doing with a lot of my clients already. That I noticed in my own design and preparation
Yeah.
is like, yeah, I
Just
probably need.
sprinkled in there.
Yeah, it just needs. They just people need more touches year round there, and that's great. So I like that. Lifting under fatigue, that's always been a staple in the
Mm-hmm.
training I give people. So I wasn't surprised when I saw that. I like that was there because all my clients have plenty of exposure, stuff like that. So I think that just needs to continue to be a staple. Like it's more important to be better at sub maximal loads than maximal loads in
Yeah.
CrossFit. So you need to keep that in the forefront of your mind. Um, and yeah, I think that that's plenty to start with for
Okay,
sure.
good. And then quickly notes, what would I or you should stay the same? What should, if your training's working, keep it the same. But things that I think people are gonna may take away from this podcast or take away from looking at years past is like, hey, less skills. I don't need to do any more skills. But I still
Yeah,
believe building more proficient skills will always be like what people need to focus in on. And
yeah,
when I say skills, everything is a skill. So you just the better smoothness, better ability to move well, more efficient is always going to make you better. Um,
yeah,
so improve your positions, improve your mobility, improve
yeah.
the way you're doing the movement is always going to help. So I'm not going to change that at all. You know, I'm not going to say I'm going to double down on it because I'm doing it a lot already with clients. So I'm just going to keep
Hmm.
doing it. But
Yeah.
you may need to double down on that if you're not doing that. And then
Hmm.
absolute strength still needs to be developed while improving battery year round. Don't think of it as like I just need to stop doing absolute strength work, meaning like I need to drive up my 1 RM or 3 RM and get stronger as a whole. And
Hmm.
I just need to be doing like, EMOMs of lifting and power clean and jerk because that's what the event was. You still need to be really strong to improve in almost every movement. So, and I know that can just be taken out of context, but overall, you're going to be stronger. And if you are training appropriately, you're going to get better at a lot of things. So you still need to be improving strength. You need to drive up your strength, and those are two of my big things that I'm going to keep the same. We're going to build strength and build skills. Um, what do you got? You're frozen, so I'm assuming you didn't make it through. R.I.P. to Sam. Um, hopefully he can still hear me, but I'm imagining Sam is currently frozen. What he was going to say is, you are absolutely right. I couldn't have said it better myself. Um, and yes, that's what he was gonna. Oh, there you are. Did you hear me?
No, I cut out, but I'm sure
Okay.
whatever you said was great.
Perfect, because I said what he was gonna say is I have nothing more to say. You said it exactly the way I would say it. It was perfect.
Yeah, we'll go with
But
that.
no, yeah. It can't be far off. If it was, if it was far off, he would probably have stopped me before I said it somehow.
Yeah, no, those are good. Those are good points.
He's looking at our Google Doc. That's how he knows. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully we'll get back to the live stream soon. You heard the teaser about the financial podcast. We have a lot of other podcasts coming in soon with some new coaches, new to you guys, some new faces on the podcast. Competitive Conversations is still going to be going strong. We're going to be talking about, we're going to help educate you or help teach you, or maybe just help you understand what we do. I don't want to put it on you that I'm teaching you or we're teaching you, but hopefully you can gain something from listening in. So yeah, we appreciate everyone listening in. Keep looking out for the content, and thank you if you made it this far. Please like and subscribe, share it, tell all your friends, and let them know about all the future episodes. Anything you want to end on, Sam?
That's great. Thanks, Roman.
Awesome. Sam's gonna get back to his newborn child, his little man. So thank you again.
Yeah.
See you, everybody.